Hello, everyone. I am Corey Andrew Powell, and I'm joined today by Bryan Terrell Clark, who you may recognize from one of his many television appearances, and including the critically acclaimed When They See Us, or you may have seen him on Broadway, starring as George Washington in the phenomenal hit play Hamilton, or in the recent Broadway successful play Thoughts of a Colored Man. Bryan is also a recording artist and public speaker, and he's dedicated an organization he's founded actually in helping young people build self-esteem and learn the value of being their most authentic selves. So Bryan, welcome to Motivational Mondays.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. I'm super excited.
Oh, thank you. No, it's an honor for me too. I'm gonna tell you for first off why it's an honor because as a fellow performer and a person who was out there, on those streets grinding um I'm just so happy to talk to somebody who's booking as much work as you are because
It's a
you stay
blessing.
booked.
It's a blessing. It's a
Yeah.
blessing. It's a I do think that for those of you out there who are struggling to, want any sort of dream to kind of manifest, I think the key to all of it, to be honest, is just to keep going. Just keep going. I was blessed this weekend to shoot a film with a mentor of mine, Billy Porter,
Oh
and
wow, yes, of course.
yeah, we had some moments between takes to just talk about how everybody's journey is so different. And I think oftentimes when we're pursuing things, we want to get there fast. And the thing I always tell all my friends and a lot of young people is that you don't want it fast, you want it to last.
Yep, exactly.
You don't want it fast. You want it to last. And I think the thing that I'm learning right now is that the things that we're praying for, the things that we're working for, all those things are coming, y'all. They coming. The question is, who will you be when they get there? And I think that sometimes the time in between we don't realize is developing who we are so that who we are can handle the platforms that we're asking for. So, I've been working on me and now we booking and it's great.
I mean, so we all know like the acting profession is very, very competitive, or music, entertainment in general. So, I mean, for you, booking so much work and being a working actor, I mean, how does that feel to be excelling at your craft?
You know what I realized? It's so funny that you said that because I just had this conversation with a friend of mine. By the time you reach one mountaintop, you already have your eyes set on the next. And so it never stops. You never quite feel like, ooh, I've made it. Don't get me wrong, I'm grateful. I realized I'm living the dreams that I had maybe 10 years ago. I was just sharing with a friend of mine in New York about some of my new ventures, and he was like, "Yeah, but do you realize that you're living the life that we talked about 10 years ago in New York?" And I was like, "Wow!" So it was a big moment of gratitude because you never quite stop the pursuit. I feel like the balance that I'm learning is somewhere between the hunger and the passion for the dreams you still have and the gratitude for what you currently have. And the balance is somewhere in the middle. But believe it or not, once you get there, it does not feel like you made it. It feels like, all right, and next, all right, and next. So yeah, I'm grateful. I'm grateful and I'm still hungry.
Right, right. I mean, and I think that's a good idea too to keep in mind because there's always more to learn, more to do, more to accomplish. However, it's okay to also be like, yeah, I did that. I'm really grateful, but it's okay to want more. I think people are made to feel guilty for that sometimes.
Yeah, I think so. And I also think, that there's two sides of that coin, right? We feel guilty for wanting more and not feeling grateful for what we have. And at the same time, I think that sometimes in the pursuit, and maybe it's a capitalistic view, maybe it's because we live in America and we're kind of taught to
Hmm.
always want more money, always want more.
Yeah, yeah.
I do
The
think
bigger,
that
the
there
better, the next.
the bigger the better the next. Perfect way to say it. And I think sometimes we don't stop for a second and say, well, wait a minute, hold on. I have manifested a lot of the things that I talked about a long time ago, that I wrote down a long time ago, that I prayed for, that I worked for. And one of the biggest things I think that I've accomplished, not only in terms of the different projects that I've worked on, one of the things that we don't talk about enough as artists is the people we get to work with. I don't write novels. I'm not sitting in a room by myself, right? I think there's something beautiful about collaboration, and that is one of the things I'm the most grateful for is that through the years, I've been able to work with some amazing artists that I deeply respect, and to stand next to them, to work with them, to learn from them, has made me a better artist. So it's been a great journey, and we still on the journey. We still on it.
Yes, we are. We are indeed. And I know for you, you were currently in a film project with Billy Porter, the fabulous Mr. Billy Porter. So tell me a little bit about
Yeah.
that. And I know you guys were sharing some time and talking, doing some things on set.
We were. So he's working on a project called Our Son. And when I read it, I just thought it was really, really beautiful. It's starring Billy Porter and an amazing actor named Luke Evans. They are a divorcing couple who have a child. And the film really takes its time to get inside of of a relationship that's really going through a divorce. It's just that we have not seen it from this lens before. And so I was happy to just jump in for a quick little scene. I'm not going to share who I am, but you might see me in there for a second.
Okay, that's great. Listen, when I was doing my acting thing, I would love to try and book if I could book a under five, or under three, or under two. I'd be happy. For people who don't know, that's the amount of lines you get in a film. We call them under fives, and you're happy to book them. Anything more than that, you're really ecstatic.
So true, so true. Yeah, and it's we used to say that thing in the industry of there's no small parts, there's no small roles. I think on some level that is true. We have to understand not only the character that you're playing, but how that person contributes to the story that you're telling. And so I have a pretty significant role coming up in this film. It helps to tell the story of where Billy is going next, and I love being a part of that.
That's wonderful. And I also think with your work, and I want to ask you just maybe if it's coincidental or if you are consciously seeking out work this way, there seems to be a lot of social consciousness to the work that you've done. And many actors sometimes are like, well, I just take whatever role I get. But you seem to be a lot much more focused in the body of work that you're accumulating. So is that something that you are conscious of?
Corey, that's interesting because I think this is one of those weird spiritual moments. I get a little spiritual sometimes, so y'all don't be mad at me, all you academics out there. But I do believe there's something to intention, and there's something to being clear on your purpose. I always tell young people, I speak at a lot of colleges, I speak at a lot of universities. And through the last 5 years, one thing that I really try to drive home is that your passion leads to your purpose. And I don't think it's coincidental that I end up working on projects that have a strong social justice voice, pieces that tend to shed light in areas that need to be illuminated, that amplify voices that often don't get heard. I think that internally, that's what I believe my purpose is. However, it's not like I go to my agents or my managers and I say, hey, only get me, social justice stuff. It's so funny because I was talking to Ava, actually the last time I saw her, and I said, "Why are you always casting me as these bad guys?" I've had the blessing of working with Ava DuVernay. I've had the blessing of working with Ava DuVernay on 3 projects, and I told her, I said, "Why am I always the bad guy?" She said, "I think it's your eyebrows." And I said, "Well, make me a good guy. Can I be a good guy?" And she cast me in Cherish the Day as a therapist, and so yeah, I think that put it out there, be clear on your intention, be clear on your purpose, and then it will manifest.
No, I agree. I think that, again, actors are sometimes, especially when they're first starting out, they have a lot less say in what they're taking. They'll just take anything, I mean, so I know that that's also the life of an actor is just to be working. But I think it's a blessing that you're in a place where you do sort of have, the ability to turn down things if they don't feel aligned with you. And I think that's so important in general in life. There's a metaphor there about just moving forward in life with things that you don't feel are aligned with who you are.
I'm at the place right now in my life, Corey, where if it's not a yes, if it's not a, ooh, I'm excited about this, then that usually means it's a no. And I think that as actors, because we fight so long, and we have seasons of not working, that sometimes we think we just need to take anything and everything. But the truth is that our biggest superpower as an actor is the ability to say no. No, I don't think this aligns with my vision of what I want to put out to the world. Because that's the other thing we have to realize as artists, we're really, really important to the fabric of society. We're important to culture. We reflect, as Nina Simone said, we're like a mirror. We reflect culture back to itself. And I think that we have to be careful about what we're pouring into people's ears, what we're pouring into people's, vision. What is it what is it that we want society to be, and how do we reinforce that through the stories that we tell? And so I'd love to think that somewhere deep down I was super clear with the universe, and that's why these projects came. But I have to be honest, in the beginning, you do kind of take what you can get. I do also think that you end up getting the things that reflect what you are, because that's the things you shine the most in. So that also makes sense. I'm booking those roles because those auditions are probably my best auditions.
And that comes down to your technical skill.
Yes. Yes. And that's the other thing that I would tell anybody too. I think we are in such a microwave society where we want everything fast. And, I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again on this podcast. You don't want it fast. You want it to last. And you want to be good at what you do. I'm creating work right now. I'm writing films and TV shows, and I'm in the early development stage. I'm learning what it is to develop narrative and story and in these different mediums. And I have friends all the time that are like, so when you going to put me on? Hey, when you gonna give me a call so I can meet such and such, or when you gonna give me a call so I can play a role in this? Why don't you write me a role for that? And the truth of the matter is, when the time comes, will you be ready? Will you be ready for that thing that you've been saying you want? Are you really ready? And I realize that sometimes we despise the in-between time. I'm telling you, all the magic happens on the in-between time. I'm shooting a TV show right now in DR, and by the time they say action, they are so concerned with the lighting, the camera angles, the timing, all of those things. They're not really as invested in the actor's process. Every now and then you get a director who's an actor's director, but there's so many other elements that are controlling that performance. Once they put music to it, the way it's edited, that performance is not really all dependent on you. So you kind of have to show up and be ready to do your job. And nobody can really tell you how to do that. You've got to have that training and have that history already in the bag. They hired you because they want you to show up, and 3, 2, 1, action, boom, it's there and cut. So the time that you have where you're not working, the time that you have while you're waiting, that's the time that's magical. That's the time to develop. That's the time to become your best self. So when it is time for you to be revealed, what we get to see is your authenticity, your process, your work, your magic.
Yeah. Oh, that's great advice, because I even relate to that when I began taking an interest in interviewing people and having a podcast. I started out with my own personal podcast. I had, maybe 5 listeners if I was lucky. you know, but I
Great
still had
training
something to
ground.
say. Yeah, it really is, right? I mean, it's like I said, well, I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing it because I have something to say. And that is where I honed my ability to have conversations like this. And it led to more numbers. It led to other podcast guest hosting. And it led to what I'm doing now, where there's a huge audience. And I've had the likes of you and people like Stedman Graham and Olympic athletes and all kinds of wonderful people on the show. But it was because I did the work. That is
Yeah.
the point, right? We have to put in the work. And if there's going to be fame and success or whatever else later, you'll get that. That's just a
Yeah.
byproduct of it.
Completely. I think the most important thing that you said that really resonates with me so much, Corey, is I had something to say. I feel like a lot of people now want to be famous or want to be known, and it's like, for what? What do you have to say? What do you have to contribute?
Right, right.
And I think we also have to begin to, the older I get, I'm on the other side of 40 now, and I do feel that the older you get, success and what success means and how you define success begins to change. No pun intended, but pun intended. When I was younger, Will Smith was the goal to reach for. You know what I mean? But we don't realize what it takes to be a Will Smith. We don't realize what it means, where every action that you make, the things you say, the choices that you make, the ramifications and all of the people it affects. We have to make sure that we're defining success for ourselves from within. What's important to you? What do you want to contribute? What do you have to say? So that when you reach those places, you're prepared for the thing you've been asking for. And that's what I'm learning, is coming to fruition now. I'm like, thank God for the lean seasons. Thank God for the time I only had a sweet potato in the refrigerator. Thank God for the time I was okay in the hot summer doing, Omaha, Nebraska Shakespeare Festival in a wool Shakespeare costume on a summer stage in August. Like, thank God for those times, because they fortified my character and they fortified my process. And to be honest, it's interesting. We don't realize that the times we're in now are honing the skills that we'll need in the next season. So, what I mean by that is, here's an example. My mother would love this because my mother's a pastor, so she would love this. Everybody knows the story of David and Goliath, right? Everybody knows that story. Now, we know that that young man was running around slinging them rocks with that slingshot forever and forever and forever. And now it's time to battle the giant. And they tried to give him a sword and they tried to give him this armor. And that was actually the issue. They were trying to fight a giant in close combat. That's why they were losing, because they were fighting a giant hand to hand close combat. David didn't have to get a new skill to defeat Goliath. He had to go back to the thing that was authentic to him. And so, what's being built right now in these in between seasons is our authenticity. What's being built right now is our process. What's being built right now is our character, so that when it's time to face a Goliath, you'll defeat that Goliath because you're fortified in this in between season. So, I think right now, with everything going on in the world, from monkeypox to COVID, things shutting down, don't be afraid to get a little quiet. Don't be afraid to get a little still. Be afraid to spend some time with yourself, because your time is coming. That desire in whoever's listening, that's like, I know I'm supposed to contribute something. I know I have a voice. I know I have something to say. I know I'm supposed to be a part of moving culture forward. You're right about those feelings. You're right about those things. And if the doors are not opening right now, that does not mean that it's a no. It just means what you're supposed to be doing right now is getting ready. Get ready for the thing you've been asking for, because when it comes, you do not want to squander it, because your character and your authenticity and your process were not honed in the quiet space. Because let me tell you what you don't want. Everybody who want to be famous on TikTok and everybody who want to be famous at 19, what you don't want is to be developing in front of the world. I have so many friends that are famous, and I just want to give them a hug, because they're almost not even allowed to be human, because you're going to fail and you're going to make mistakes. It's a blessing when you can make those mistakes and you can fall short and you cannot be your best and the world isn't watching. It's a different kind of pressure when the entire world is watching you. So savor this time. This time is a gift. This time is the time where you begin to work your magic. So when the door opens and the spotlight shines on you, you know exactly what you're doing, and you don't have to do nothing different. Do everything that you learned how to do in the quiet.
I love that example too, because we brought up Billy Porter earlier, and he's a great example of staying true and authentic to himself, doing the work. For the past, I guess, 30 years, he's done off Broadway. He's done small things here and there. He's done summer stock. He was doing all these things. And of course, he had come from doing a pretty nice stint on Broadway with Miss Saigon and all the stuff he had done. But there were those lulls, he talks about those lulls. And then there was him trying to be a recording artist and being told that he was, because he was out, or he wasn't going to be convincing as a recording artist. So that was having an issue. But he stayed true to what he knows how to do and who he is. So now he is celebrated for all the exact things that people were trying to change about him, because it was almost like the world had to catch up to him versus the other way around.
And that's the other thing that I'll say. I would say that for anybody that's pursuing anything, even if you're pursuing a relationship, whatever it is, Don't try to be the thing you think everybody wants, because that's not sustainable. You have to be your truest self. Billy's a great example of that. But I was just on Instagram today, and um, I saw Dwayne the Rock Johnson. He was accepting an award, and he said that when he first got to Hollywood, Hollywood really wanted to change him. They said, "You are way too big. You're gonna have to lose some of this muscle, lose some of this weight. Leading actors are not as big as you. Also, you're gonna have to change your name. We're not gonna call you The Rock." And he said for a little while, he tried to conform to Hollywood. But he said what he realized was he became even more successful when he said, Hollywood is going to have to conform to me. And it's those kinds of spirits and personalities that really make a mark in the world. I was doing the same thing for a really long time. I was just trying to be what I thought the industry wanted and needed. And not only will you not be as successful, it's just also not as fun. Because I tell my agents and my managers now, they ask me, how did the audition go? And I say, well, if they wanted a me, I booked it. So now I'm not trying to, go in and play. I had a great acting teacher by the name of Ron Van Loo. He taught at NYU for years. He's like the acting Yoda. I believe that he's the most named acting teacher of all the Oscar recipients. But one thing that Ron Van Loo said to me in class one day that I will always hold dear to is that he said, I don't like most of the acting that I see nowadays because I'm watching people play their idea of the thing as opposed to just being the thing. So, for example, you get called in to play Officer Jones. So you go, okay, hold on, I'm a police officer. So let me walk like this and talk like this. No, child, we know you're a police officer because the other characters call you officer. We know you're an officer because you got a badge on and you're dressed like that. So you don't have to put on anything that feels like you're playing an officer. Ironically, though, that's what we do in life. We start dating and we go, well, let me be these things this person wants. We enter new career paths and we go, let me, especially those of us who are A-type personalities, y'all know who I'm talking right to y'all. We will study a thing. We will find the patterns. We will find what is successful and we will try to emulate those things. I'm on here to offer a different idea. What if you are already enough? What if the skills that you're learning are supposed to accompany your authenticity? And that is where you're going to shine in innovation. There's no other you on the planet. And what we find is that people kind of blend into the walls and just kind of become beige because no one's bringing anything innovative. No one's bringing anything authentic. And that's because they're silencing their authentic voice. They're becoming the idea of the thing. Same thing Ron Van Loo said. You're playing the idea of the thing as opposed to being your version of the thing. And we need your voice. We need you. Not only in the industry, but we need you in the earth. That's why I love, Corey, that you said, I started off with 5 people, but I knew I had something to say. That's a wonderful thing. I remember being back in LA when I first graduated from Yale. And I was walking in a social circle with a guy named Jason Lee. And years later, Jason Lee has become this media voice. He has a great show called Hollywood Unlocked, I believe is the name of it. And the thing about it is Jason is just being Jason. Jason always had a lot of opinions. Jason was always mouthy. And now Jason is getting paid money to be that.
Yeah, he's doing really well.
He's doing well. So whatever you are, people say you're too much. Oh, you're too much. You better go out there and be too much because somebody is going to pay you to be exactly what you are. And that's what I see in Billy. That's what I see in you, Corey. That's what I see in this speech that I just heard from Dwayne The Rock Johnson. We've got to walk in that authenticity because there's something innovative there.
We definitely appreciate you spending some time with us today here and, sharing all your successes and your mission for the future with us here on Motivational Mondays. We really appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much.